Hey, today I want to continue talking about examples of prayer in the Old Testament. And this is not a prayer of a prophet, but this is the prayer of a king. And I love this prayer because it is so simple. I actually had to be taught this prayer. And by the way, we'll talk about that over the next couple Sundays, but it's okay to be taught how to pray. None of us come fully equipped with knowing how to talk to God. It's something that can be learned, can be taught, and it's a big part of discipleship. Having somebody to teach you to pray. And it was just a few years ago that somebody said, you know, the prayer that I've been praying a lot lately? And I said, what? And it was somebody I respected, somebody I admired and looked up to. And so I said, what prayer have you been praying lately? And they said, Jesus, help. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Jesus, help? What a profound, I can't think of a more profound prayer. Look, I'm a guy of many words. I can use 1,000 words to say what should have been said in 10. And so to simply put the kind of faith and trust in Jesus to, at the bottom of my heart, just pray, Jesus, help. Well, it reminds me of King Asa in 2 Chronicles 14. If you want to turn there, let's just read the first several verses of this chapter together. And then here, as we get to the middle of the chapter, we'll go to verse 11 or something, maybe 12. And we'll get to his really profound and really simple prayer. But it's important to know who King Asa was before we do that. So 2 Chronicles 14 starts with this. Abijah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. Now, Abijah, we have to know, was, I should have looked this up to remember, I think he is the second, and King Asa is the third in the line of Judah after the kingdom divides. So you have like Solomon, and then Solomon's kids can't keep it together. Rehoboam is the first king of Judah, and over it says, Rehoboam did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. His son Abijah, I might be missing one, I don't think I am. Yeah, his son Abijah, again, said he did what was worse than his father. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And that always means not taking care of the poor, amoral living, and idol worship. So he's setting up Asherah poles. They're worshiping the Baals. All these other countries, all these other nations' gods have made their way into Judah. So it starts with his death. Abijah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa, his son, reigned in his place. In his days, the land had rest for 10 years. Oh, the land had rest. That's always a good thing. We want the land to have rest. No wars, just God gave a little respite here. Asa, we're going to find out, is a good dude, and God gives him a 10-year period of rest. And Asa did what was good and right in the sight of Yahweh, in the sight of the Lord his God. All right, Asa, way to go, man. Like, this is a good guy. He's looked at the way his dad ran the show. He looked at the way his grandfather ran the show, and he said, no, when I'm king, we're going to be faithful to God. This is God's land. He's the one that put us here, and that's what we're going to do. So King Asa did what was good and right in the sight of God. He took away the foreign altars and the high places and broke down the pillars and cut down the Asherim. Way to go, Asa. This is a courageous guy, like to change the whole, can you imagine what this would have been like for him to just say, hey, you know, this whole religious structure of the last two kings, and that's what he did. And verse 4 says, and commanded Judah to seek the Lord. He commanded, he said, I'm the king. Yahweh is going to be our king. Yahweh is going to be the one I serve. Yahweh is going to be the one we honor as a nation. What an amazing guy. And commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, and to keep the law and the commandments. Okay, so our law, our morality is also going to be based on God's ideas of those things and not these other false gods' ideas of these things, or not our ideas of these things, but we're going to follow the Mosaic law. We're going to be the people of God that we always claim to be. He also took out all of the cities of Judah and the high places and the incense altars, and the kingdom had rest under him. Guys, guess what? Good leadership makes for a restful people. Surprise. So Asa follows God, repents, changes things, and the kingdom has rest under him. He built fortified cities in Judah, for the land had rest. So there's a defense benefit to this too. He had no war in those years, for the Lord gave him peace. And he said to Judah, let's build these cities and surround them with walls and towers and gates and bars. The land is still ours because we have sought the Lord our God. We have sought him, and he has given us peace on every side. So they built and prospered. Isn't it neat also that Asa is the kind of guy that has some success in leadership, and doesn't say, I, King Asa, have given you good things, but instead says, hey guys, we still have our land because God has been gracious to us. God has allowed us to keep it. Way to go, Asa. And Asa had an army of 300,000 from Judah, armed with large shields and spears, and 280,000 men from Benjamin that carried shields and drew bows. All these were mighty men of valor. Zerah, the Ethiopian, came against them with an army of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots. I wonder if you're doing the same thing that I do when I read that. I go, wow, Asa's got, for an ancient army, he's got 500,000, 500, I don't know, what is it? Like 580,000 warriors. Wow, that seems pretty good. And then the very next sentence is, there's this attack from the south. This Zerah, the Ethiopian, comes out against them out of Africa, and an army of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots. Clearly a superior power. And verse 10 says, and as Asa went out to meet him, and they drew up their lines in the battle of the valley of Zephthah at Marishah, and Asa cried to the Lord his God. Okay, here we go. Ready for the prayer? This just blows me away. Look, the prayer we're about to read is not simple. It's not basic. It's not complex, but there is a mountain of maturity. This is not an immature prayer. The prayer, Jesus, help, is not a sign of immaturity. It is a sign of maturity. It is where you have been so through the complexity of faith, where you are now right where you were at the beginning of your faith, where you are just crying out, Jesus, help. So where were we? Verse 11, and Asa cried to the Lord his God, O Lord, there is none like you to help between the mighty and the weak. Just an acknowledgement, God, we're done if you don't help. You're all we got. We don't have another option. There's no one else to help. Help us, O Lord God, for we rely on you. There's the prayer. Asa doesn't even kind of mention the enemy. He doesn't articulate all the ways he thinks God should help. He doesn't enumerate his own weakness. There's very complicated prayers in Scripture. This one is profound in its simplicity. Let me read it to you again. And Asa cried to the Lord his God, O Lord, there's none like you to help between the mighty and the weak. Help us, O Lord our God, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this multitude. O Lord, you are our God. Let not man prevail against you. God, help. We're here in your name. I don't know how this works out. He doesn't know what God should do to work it out. You know, when I first became the senior pastor here at Lighthouse Baptist, I remember praying this prayer. When you decide, you know, I was a youth pastor for 22 years, long time as a youth pastor. It's all I ever wanted to be. I love youth ministry. I love music ministry, enjoyed those things greatly, and really felt a strong call to lead here at Lighthouse, and was a great, wonderful season of decision making, wonderful season of kind of holding on tight to God and watching him open doors and close others. But it's all that decision making, that season is very exciting. But I remember just some weeks after I started being the senior pastor here, and we were a pretty little church, and I knew a lot about what happens at a church. I knew a lot about how to make Sundays happen and whatever. But it kind of dawned on me that I was way out of my depth. that when it came down to the spiritual qualities of being a pastor, a shepherd of God's people, that and maybe nobody, honestly speaking, but I knew for sure that I needed help. I remembered Solomon's prayer, God, give me wisdom to lead your people. And I remembered this prayer. And I remembered that my friend had not too long before that taught me to just simply pray, Jesus, help. And I remember sitting in the sanctuary by myself a lot of days, and during this coronavirus thing, I've picked up that practice again. I'm walking around the sanctuary, and it's empty, and I'm sitting in the pews, and I don't have the same kind of overwhelmed feeling I had 5 years ago, but to simply say, with all of the complications and with all of my limitations, Jesus, help. That's not an immature, basic cry. That's a profound, mature Christian prayer. So today, Lighthouse, if the only prayer you can muster in the middle of the complexity of the situations you find yourself in the middle of the, I don't know if it's immaturity or just your awareness that you don't have what it takes to make life happen on your own, could you join with my friend who taught me this so many years ago and join with King Asa, this wise king in Judah, who simply said, and Asa cried to the Lord his God, O Lord, there is none like you to help between the mighty and the weak. Help us, O Lord our God, for we rely on you.